Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Wenyu Chiou. I'm a PhD candidate from Lehigh University, and this work is joined with the Hawjeng Chiou from the National Taiwan Normal Universities. So today we'd like to share this topic, and the topic is what makes AI believable, comparing AI and the human response in mental health risk assessment. In today's presentations, we will start from the introductions and the motivations and talk about the challenges and the scientific questions that we want to address. And then we will talk about the methodology, result, and the conclusion. So a score never means anything on its own. What it means depends on who answered and on how that the person was described. The descriptions, in other words, is part of what we measure. So that is why the current interest in the large language model matters here. So researchers have begun asking whether these large language models, given the personas, which is a short written descriptions of a person's, could answer a questionnaire in that person place. These are the synthetic respondents, and whether this is actually feasible is still remain open questions. And that is why the design of this persona is itself the research questions. The model has no experience of that person's, and whatever we write into the persona is the entire words it has to work from. And whatever we leave out, it fills in from patterns in its training data. So the wording is not a formality. It decides what the model knows and what it has to event. So we take into the series screaming as an example, where the stakes are unusually high. Most questions ask about serious problems, and most respondents answers no to nearly all of them. So screaming is used to identify the few who answered yes. So these rare responses carry almost all of the weight. And that is where an invented answers um, and does real damage. So if the model says yes, even slightly too readily, problems appear more common than they are. And the threshold for who gets flagged shifts before the instrument ever reaches a real respondent. So there is several change and ha and it um and generates some scientific questions. So the feasibility comes down to evidence, and when you look at the evidence currently offered, there are three things that are missing. The first, most studies stop at the group average, which is the easiest test to pass. No one has held the no one has held the model fixed and vary only the descriptions, and accuracy on those rare series responses is almost never examined. So our study want to ask the question directly: does the descriptions change how well the answers match the real persons? So to answer this, we have some study to examine the results under the changing personas design. Because we have these since the students' own response, we can compare these generated data with these real world human data. And this is a question we want to address in these presentations. So here I want to explain the methodology of our study. So the first, our survey is the attentive inventory of the mental health for the undergraduate, which is as known as the AINH. This 75 questions inventory that screens students for suicidal tendency. So each 14 subscale cover the risk factors that fit into the judgment: depressive symptoms, emotional fluctuations, functions, peer relationship, impulse control, and the subsystem planning itself. So the every questions is answered on the 0 to the 5 scale, and the design itself run from the top of this figure, which will have these, and these design shows about like the 10 steps. So here, so the first, we will start from the students' own background and including their demographic attributes with these experience that reported. So from that, we write a persona profile, which is a short descriptions of that person's. And this is the example that we write here. And here we will we'll ask these respondents with the difference questions group here. And the core of our study design is up to the design of this persona prompt. So here to test the descriptions that how they influence these respondents. So we generate and design the two types of the prompt design. So the first prompt is the standard design or standard versions, like states um, only what a person has, which leaves the model to infer anything else. But here we will have another new set, which is the enriched versions. And these versions, we is additionally state what they do not have, no self-harm, no suicidal attempt, and also no family violence. In addition, we also add another single line on how they are copying overgo. And then this model do not have to guess on exactly the questions that matters most. So here in the final, we will generate two complete sets of the response. And and these response will have about like this the 369 students response answers, and then for the two different design. So finally, we can compare these different results with the human baseline. So about how to evaluate these synthetic results, we will consider the three different levels. So the first level is the group level. Do these group average match? So we measure that with this effective size coherence D, which is how far the AI average see from the human ones. And secondly, we also consider these results at an individual level. So do individual people match? We use these three different metrics. So the correlations are coefficients, agreements, which is the ICC that asks whether these actual values match, and NAE, which is the average error per person. So the last one is the skill level. So about skill level, this is about the reliability and the validity of the questionnaire. And these metrics includes the alpha, which is reliability, factor structure like the factor loading, and also also some CFI and ISEA, which is like the model fit matrix. So combine these three metrics and also the three difference level, we can have the comprehensive analysis of this synthetic generated response. So this slide just shows the results of their average with these things shot. So the first, so we can see this is shows the 14 areas with the in the questionnaire that's covered. And the gray color is the real student response. And blue one is the results under the standard persona that's generated from the large language model. And orange line is derived from the enriched personas. So from this figure in the panel A, we can see these the results under enriched persona is more closer to this gray line. But for the blue line actually is sit outside this area. But in the panel B, actually, we can see, even even this difference of personal design, this variance is still a little away to these humans' results. And the second one is about the group level agreement. But in the panel A, is shows is the spectacular plot of this human data and the AI data. And then each dot point represents one student. And the horizontal axis is the student's own total value score, and the vertical axis is the model produced. And the dashed line is marks these perfect agreements. So among these three metrics is improved under these enriched personas compared to the standard personas. And the correlation actually is rise from the zero point 0.4 to the 0.47%, but the ICC value is still very low. Even they have I have a slight increase from 0.17 to the 0.38. So that means in terms of this individual level, actually, these synthetic response cannot reproduce at the individual level. Even we provide the concrete descriptions using this enriched persona. So the last one is about the level, the skill level. So if you only check this reliability, everything is looks sounds. About the crop on alpha, it still stay high under the above descriptions. And especially for the end for this is origin color, which is the result from enriched persona. But but when we check the structure, which is about the factor loading correlated with these human patterns, that is only have about like 0.24 and 0.32, which is the poor performance. And about their model fit matrix, actually we can see they still not have, they still not reach their acceptable ranges, which is ranging from the 0.069 to 0.089 for RSEA and the 0.77 to 0.78 for CFI. So the same enrichment that fits the average does not fix the structure and even degrades these fits. So on the surface, the scale looks reliable, but underneath it is not the same questionnaire. So here we can conclude in these three bullet points. So the first, believable on the average is not believable person by person. That means if we see the metrics in terms of the average, actually is acceptable. But if we look at some metrics about like at the individual level or even in terms of the reliability of these measurements, actually is still poor. Also, we found a richer description can fix this level, but the structure is not. Also, this is the third one, which is the practical bottom. These are like the suitable for a raw first draft on a skill, but not for the replacement individuals or nodes. So in the future, we need to concern when we use these data, these synthetic data that is generated by the AI for some individual study in terms of like some comparisons of their individual level and also about the instrument. And this slide just shows our reference. So thank you for listening. So if you have any questions, Please feel free to reach either of us by these two emails, and I will be glad to take the questions.